Ladies and gentlemen and Hawkeye fans, thank you so much for coming today to FRYfest. What a great turnout. What a great day it is. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and witness the greatest Hawkeye show on earth. Now, my pleasure to introduce to you the Sports Information Director Emeritus from the University of Iowa, Mr. Phil Hattie.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's another year of Hawkeye football, Hawkeye athletics, and we've got another absolutely great Hawkeye Hall of Fame class, and we're going to bring them up on the stage right now. Come on up. We're going to have them sit down, and then we're going to give you all of their achievements. The 2017 Hawkeye Hall of Fame class. Okay, the best way to do this, they're sitting down now, obviously. What a great group of Hawkeyes, and one at a time, we're going to introduce them. We're going to have them stand, and until I get done with that person, hold your applause. And we're going to tell you what they did as a Hawkeye, and believe me, we're not telling you everything because they did an awful lot as far as achievements. First of all, have her stand up, Tony Nicola Bickford. Tony Nicola Bickford, Iowa women's tennis. She was first team All Big Ten, 1999 through 2002. She was named 1999 Freshman of the Year in the Big Ten. She was part of Iowa's first doubles team to ever make it to the NCAA tournament. Her partner at the time was Shara Wiegler. They made it 1999, 2000, and 2002. She was the first player to qualify for the NCAA singles bracket from Iowa, and that was in 2002. Her coach was Paul Wardlaw, and she likes to say she's got Bulgarian blood, but she's got a Hawkeye heart. Hall of Famer Tony Nicola Bickford. Phillip Buchanan. Chris, an All-American, first team, 1999, 91, and 92. She was All-Region, 1989, 90, and 92. She led the Hawkeyes to 3 Final Fours. 2-time All-Big Ten. She was a member of the 1996 USA Olympic team, a member of 3 USA World Cup teams, a member of the U.S. national team until 1999. Her coach was Beth Beglin. Hall of Famer Phillip Buchanan. Tom Dunn. He was Iowa's head men's gymnastics coach from 1981 to 2010. He led the Hawkeyes to 18 top 10 finishes in the NCAA. He won the Big Ten title in 1986 and 1998. He was Big Ten runner-up 9 times. Under him, Iowa won 5 individual NCAA titles, 35 individual Big Ten titles, and 67 times the Hawkeyes won individual All-American honors. 3 times he was Big Ten Coach of the Year, 1997, 1998, 2006. He's 3-time Regional Coach of the Year, 1986, 1998, and 2006. And in 1998, his team took 2nd place in the NCAA championships. Hall of Famer Tom Dunn. Robert Gallery. Robert was a consensus All-American in 2003 as an offensive lineman for the Hawkeyes. He was a little bit bigger then. He won the 2003 Outland Trophy as the nation's top interior lineman. He led Iowa to a Big Ten title in 2002. He played in the Orange Bowl following the 2002 season and the Outback Bowl following the 2003 season. Iowa was 21-5 his final 2 years as a Hawkeye. Iowa finished number 8 in the nation in both of those years. He was picked second overall in the NFL draft by the Oakland Raiders following his senior year. His head coach, Kirk Ferentz. Hall of Famer, Robert Gallery. Marty Kistler, Hall of Famer. Marty Kistler wrestled for the Hawkeyes. He wrestled at 150, 158, and 167. He was an NCAA champion in 1985 and 1986. He was named the outstanding wrestler at the NCAA tournament in 1986. Four-time letterman for the Hawkeyes. Iowa won 4 NCAA titles with Marty on the team. He was a 3-time All-American and Big Ten champion. He had a record of 118-25, a career record at the University of Iowa, but more importantly, his final 2 years, he was 76-2. He had 2 brothers on the Iowa team. I don't know if they're here with us today. We'll see that later. Lindley and Harlan. His head coach was Dan Gable. He was a 3-time NCAA finalist after redshirting at Iowa. Hall of Famer Marty Kistler. Hall of Famer Barb Willis. She was named All-American in 1990. First team All-Big Ten 1989 and 90. Second team in 1998. She was named Iowa's top volleyball player of the decade for the 1980s. She's still Iowa's all-time leader in career blocks, and she ranks still in the top 10 in career kills, digs, and attack percentages. She was a member of the USA national team 1991 and 1993. She played in the 1991 World Games and the 1991 Pan American Games. And her head coach was Sandy Stewart. That's Hall of Famer Barb Willis. Hall of Famer Andre Woolridge. Andre was an All-American in 1997. He was first team All-Big Ten that same year. In 1997, he became the first player in Big Ten history to lead the conference in scoring and assists in the same year. He transferred to Iowa from Nebraska after realizing he'd made a gigantic mistake. He lettered in 1995 through 1997. He graduated as Iowa's all-time assist leader with 575. He's 12th in career scoring with 1,525 points. No telling what he would have done 4 years as a Hawkeye. And his team made the NCAA bracket in 1996, 1997. His head coach was Tom Davis. He's Hall of Famer Andre Woolridge. The 2017 Hall of Fame class for the Hawkeyes, another great class. Now we're going to go around the table here right now, and we're going to have all of you give us your thoughts on becoming a Hall of Famer, what it means to you, and if there's anyone you want to maybe recognize out there that did a lot to pursue your career. And now we'll just go right down the line. Chris, we'll start with you. Chris Phillip.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out to FRYfest. This is my first FRYfest.
By the way, before she starts, I want to point out something. She was considered, maybe, we've all changed a little, one of the greatest athletes to ever perform at the University of Iowa. And it took a long time after she finished, but her brother, I am told, finally told her, you must have been a pretty good athlete after all. I didn't realize it. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to just thank everyone for putting on an event like this, and congrats to all my inductees. It's really special to be back here. I'm from California, so to get back here is not easy. But I'm really glad I came. I came with my wife and her mother-in-law. My whole family couldn't come, but I want to thank them and thank everyone just for the recognition. It's really special.
Next, we have a guy that we're going to keep this, okay, PG-13 here, but they used to say back then this guy was built like a brick something house. But he was an absolutely outstanding wrestler, virtually unbeatable his last 2 years at Iowa. And are your brothers here?
Yes, Harlan's here, up there in the front row.
Okay, right there. Good to see you. They wrestled at Iowa. Stand up so they know who you are here. Okay, Marty Kistler.
I'd like to thank everybody that showed up today, and we're all kind of happy to see a good football gathering for tomorrow, and we hope we win. And a lot of this was about winning, and that meant 2 to 3 workouts a day for, 6 months out of the year. So it was a lot of hard work, but it paid off, and it was a lot of fun. I'd like to thank all the fans in their black and gold.
Talk as long as you want.
It's always good to see you all show up and wearing the same clothes.
Tony Nicola Brickford, she had a coach, Paul Wardlow, who was an outstanding coach for the Hawkeyes. And I'll tell you what, I played a lot of tennis, and I couldn't even come close to a racket. And we were mentioning last night, I'd like to later on have you mention this, but the tennis played at the U.S. Open isn't the kind of tennis that we played a long time ago, because they're hitting the crap out of the ball. But Tony, your thoughts on going into the Hall of Fame?
Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm just so happy to be back in the Hawkeye land. This is my home away from home. It's always going to be. And I live on the East Coast now, but always talk very highly about my time at Iowa and everything that the university and the Iowa City community has given to me. And I'm just who I am because of the years I spent here. So thank you for being here with me, and it's nice to see the black and gold.
Next, we had just a massive force in Iowa's offensive line, and he was drafted, as we said, second in the NFL draft by the Oakland Raiders. He married somebody that was probably a better athlete than himself, because she was on the Iowa women's basketball. Is Becca here? She's there right now. Becca, there's the athlete in the family, his wife. Becca, stand up. Maybe he'll introduce you. But certainly, and the rest of his family, but certainly one of the great offensive linemen in NCAA football history, Robert Gallery.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that came out today. This is obviously a great honor for myself to be sitting up here with all these other great athletes and all the athletes that came before us. Also like to thank my family that came out, especially my wife, Becca, and my kids, Hayden, Brooklyn, and Lincoln, and my folks, and all my other friends and family that are out for this weekend. It's a huge honor being born and raised in Iowa. We live in California now, but when everybody asks where we're from Iowa, and I'm always be an Iowa guy, and this is a huge honor for us to come back and be a part of this, and just be back in this great state with the great people and everyone that's here. So thank you very much.
Andre Wooldridge came to Iowa, and he had some help the first 2 years, but the third year at Iowa, he was pretty much, I don't want to say on his own, but he took over and became an All-American. And the numbers showed it, and I'm sure he would have been well over 2,000 points, and he would have been close to the great Roy Marble as far as Iowa's all-time scorer had he been at Iowa 4 years. Hall of Famer Andre Woolridge.
Thank you. I want to just thank everyone for coming out. Feels good to be back here. California has a different feel to it. And I want to thank my family for traveling, Linnell, Rick, Atlas, and my Iowa family for showing up, Gary, Steph, Julie, Whit. Just honored to be up here with you guys. Looking forward to a great weekend. Thank you.
One of the great basketball players for the Hawkeyes. We want to remind you, too, there is a reception honoring these Hall of Famers. It's a Letterman's Hall of Fame reception right here at the Marriott tonight. It's open to the public for a nominal fee. And anybody who's interested, you're invited to go tonight. Okay, next up, volleyball. And volleyball, I tell you, has taken a new direction at Iowa. Bon Szymanski's doing a great job coaching. And I'm sure he'd like to have some players of the talent that you were back in the late 80s, early 90s, but one of the great volleyball players to ever play in the Big Ten, Barb Willis.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for everyone being here. Like everybody said, this is an awesome honor. It's tremendous to be up here with all these great athletes. I do think that Bond is going to make the program what it should be, and so I fully support him in what he's doing, and I'm very excited about what they're doing over there. As for being inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, it's a dream that I never even realized I had come true. I grew up every Saturday morning with my dad playing the Iowa Fight song, opening up the front door. Of course, this was many, many years ago, so we had the record player. We had a huge record that had the Iowa Fight song on it. My dad would open up the front door and blast the Iowa Fight song. So every week it was the Iowa Fight song. We grew up Hawkeyes. The day after I signed my letter of intent, my dad woke me up to the Iowa Fight song. So Hawkeye through and through, and couldn't be prouder to be here.
Thank you, Barb. That does actually remind me of a memory I have, because every Saturday morning of an Iowa football game, when my kids were very young, we put on the Iowa Fight song real early, and that's how we woke them up. And I won't say they got tired of it, but they made me turn it down a little. One of the great gymnastics programs in NCAA history is led by Tom Dunn. Tom has a heritage of, before Iowa at Penn State, he got good tutoring out there. I think, Tom, you came to Iowa as an assistant coach. You thought you'd be an assistant for a while, and lo and behold, after about 1 year, you became the head coach at the University of Iowa and did an unbelievably good job. Tom Dunn, Iowa Hall of Famer, gymnastics coach.
Thank you, Phil. Actually, when I came out for the 1 year, it was planned. I was going to be the head coach in 1 year. It was easier to hire an assistant coach. We had to do it quick. But I identify with FRYfest a little bit. I got hired in the same year as Hayden Fry and followed his career, obviously. I was younger, so I've lasted a little longer. I appreciate you all coming out, and looking forward to a great weekend. Thank you.
Tom was the first to mention it, and I will say I spoke with Coach Fry last week. He's living in McKinney, Texas now. He's close to his kids, and he feels much more comfortable there. He's very, very sorry he couldn't be here. He sends his love to everybody at FRYfest, and he says to everybody just to walk by and tap that statue with his hat on it right there at Coralville. So Coach Fry sends his love to everybody, and we'll continue to honor him for a long, long time into the future. Another person we'd like to recognize right now, he's somewhere in the crowd, but the person that puts this all together as far as the Hall of Famers is concerned, former Iowa golf coach Mark Hankins. I don't know if he's back there somewhere. He may be gone or something, but he puts it all together and does a great job. I want to go back to And we'll get back to everybody a little bit. Barb Willis, the Iowa volleyball program. It's gaining attendance. Bond's doing a good job, but the Big Ten, it's just I don't want to. I don't know what to say. It seems from top to bottom, you've got teams ranked in the top 20 in the country, and it's just you can have a great team, and it's hard to crack.
It is really hard to crack. In fact, I thought the Iowa volleyball team should have had an NCAA bid last year, and I think they were 7th or 8th in the conference. So the Big Ten has basically flipped from when I played. It used to be the strength was on the coasts, but now the strength is in the Big Ten. And of the, I don't know how many even teams there are now, 15 teams, there are like 8 or 9 of them that are ranked in the top 20. So it's a tough conference, and Bond is amazing with the players that he gets in here and the grit that they have and how hard they fight. And I really feel like the momentum is headed in the right direction. He's going to get them there, hopefully this year.
And I want to go to another program now, because that program is definitely on the rise, but a program that's been at the top for about, I guess, 40 years now, Iowa Wrestling. And Marty, tell us a little bit how it was. The first year you came in, you took, I think admittedly, you said you took some beatings from some guys, the Zaleski brothers or somebody, and a number of people in the room, and obviously they toughened you up and made you what you turned out to be.
Well, sometimes a beating in wrestling is like 1 point. But yeah, I had a tough time. I came off a knee injury over the summer at one of your national tournaments. So I came in like this in a leg brace, and I got started a little bit late that year, and it was a tough year. Like you said, that's where most of my losses came from, is my first 2 years. But, I finished up strong and felt good about it when I look back.
This is a guy in his senior year at the NCAA championships, I think won his NCAA championship match by about 15 points. Am I correct?
Yeah, 15-3. That's a pretty good score. That's a pretty good beating.
That's a pretty good beating, and that's why I say his senior year, the guy was basically untouchable. Another program at Iowa that seems to, you can change coaches, you can do whatever you want, they always seem to be in the mix nationally, and that's Iowa field hockey. They do, it doesn't matter who's at the helm, they're doing another great job this year. And I want you to talk a little bit about, because we're talking about some unbelievable talent that you played with back then.
Yeah, Iowa field hockey is, there's no field hockey in the state of Iowa for high school, so we import all of our players, and it's a family once we get out here, and it's a very rich feeling, and they're all from the East Coast. A few of them are from California. But the coaches and the level of coaching that we've had here, and just obviously the support and the facilities are kind of second to none. And I think once you get a player from far away to see the campus and all that they have to offer, you can attract really good talent. But the level of coaching, a lot of our coaches were Olympians, 2-time Olympians, 3-time Olympians. So you kind of come in with that expectation. Just one correction, we went to the Final Four all 4 of my years. Just had to get that out there. But we did come in second, third, fourth, and second. So it's we were in the top all the time, and they're still always up in the running. And I just believe it's everything from the campus to the athletic department to the coaching, and we got it all here. So I think they'll always be in the mix.
It was almost easy with as much talent as you had. You had to work hard, but the talent you had was incredible.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I would say it was expected. And so there's just a tradition here that's it's really
and you had a
second
great coach.
Yeah, multiple. Even when I arrived here my freshman year, Beth Beglin took off to go to the Olympics, and Michelle Madison was our assistant coach, and she took off. She was the team manager. But we brought in coaches, Liz Chu and Janet Ryan, and they stepped right in and did a great job. Got us all the way to the Final Four.
Andre, you're next. You transferred to Iowa. You thought it was a better situation for you, and obviously it worked out just great. You turned it into a Hall of Fame career. Tell us what went into your thinking on why you came to Iowa and what a Tom Davis team you thought in your mind offered you, and if everything met your expectations.
Well, when I went to Nebraska, I went with 3 of my friends. We were all All-Americans. We had a big-time recruiting class. And I got there. Nebraska was more of a football school at the time, and just not enough basketballs. And when first day in Iowa City, I knew it was different. It felt different. The arena was better. The basketball was better. The Big Ten was better. Everything was better. And under Tom Davis, he's about details. He's a basketball genius, and he just taught me how to be a point guard. And the fans were better. Everything felt better than Nebraska. I loved it, and I just worked my butt off, and just trying to achieve my goals. That's it.
Tell us what you're doing now.
Still basketball. I have an academy out in Sacramento, California. I teach kids from 6 years old to I got a couple pros playing overseas. They're about 24, 25. So I teach them the details, the fundamentals, and the hard work that it takes to get to college. I just want them to get to college, to get a scholarship. Now, if you play overseas, if you play NBA, it's great. And my son over here, Ricky Barrows, he's on the way. He's 17. He's a great combination guard. Stand up, Rick. And just trying to pass it to him and all the kids, just the work ethic that it takes just to get to college. Not even Hall of Fame, not even professional. Just to get to college and get a free education. That's it.
Well said, well said. Tony, you came, you had good coaching. You came at a time probably when Iowa tennis was not at the top of its game, but you helped take it there, and I think it's an interesting story. Tell them how you ended up at Iowa. I think you sent a lot of letters to a lot of schools.
Well, it was a strange coincidence because I was looking for a school, and the head coach at the time, Paul Wardlow, was looking for a player. And I couldn't find a school, and he couldn't find a player, and a letter sent to me indicated that Iowa has an open spot, and I just decided I was going to come sight unseen, and contacted the coach, and I said, I want to come if you have a spot and you're willing to give me a full scholarship, because I couldn't afford to come otherwise to Iowa. And he said, okay, your ranking is good, please come on board. I stepped here, and the first season was incredibly interesting. We finished, the previous year we finished 10th in the Big Ten, and the year when I came we were 3rd, and we made it to Sweet 16, NCAA Sweet 16 as a team. So it was just a wild ride. It was fantastic.
I think everybody here, and I'm not sure about you, still has their finger in the sport that you played in and competed in at Iowa, and so that obviously it's a love that hasn't left. I'm not sure about Robert now. Robert, when you what you're doing in football now, but tell the folks what you're doing, and I think you're living in California, and but you're one guy. You're always going to be a Hawkeye. You're all going to always be Hawkeyes, but I think you've said that many times. You're part of the America Needs Farmers program, and there's a lot of deep-rooted Iowa in you.
Yeah, being born and raised in Iowa, I always wanted to be a Hawkeye. I had an uncle that played for Iowa State, and I remember growing up, I would never wear the hats and the clothes because, everybody else was cheering for my uncle, but I wouldn't wear it. I was an Iowa guy. And, even as we got older in sports, it was in the days of, VCRs, and I made highlight tapes because I wasn't, like a lot of these athletes, not super sought after. I made my own highlight tape on a VCR back in high school and sent it to Iowa because that's where I knew I wanted to go. So, yeah, I'm an Iowa guy. A lot of my family's still here. My parents still farm here. I come back as much as I can to farm, and I'm an Iowa farmer. That's who I am and who I'll always be. As far as what I'm doing now, it's funny as an athlete, you like to stay in your sport, but you also, my kids are getting old enough that I coach them, and you can't coach an 8-year-old like you are used to, like we were taught. So I'm slowly stepping into the coaching, and it's a learning process because all of our mentalities, it's hard to change that, the way we think, the way we work, and at some point you got to give your 8-year-old daughter a little break. It's so as my wife and I, her being a college athlete, we're bred a little differently. So I enjoy the sports stuff. I want my kids to go do their thing, and as time goes on, it'll be more in the mentality that I can really, teach them more of the stuff I learned. And then as far as what I'm doing now, I'm obviously a young family and doing stuff with them, being a part of their lives and all the things we do. And then I'm a classic car guy. I like classic cars. I buy and sell, work with other athletes, professional athletes, to get them the old school classic cars they want. I work at a shop a couple days a week. Kind of the old farmer mentality, right? We find them, we fix them, and get them running again. So it's doing stuff I enjoy and continuing to obviously follow the Hawkeyes and come back to see everyone. It's just a great honor.
That's one great thing about the tradition of being a Hawkeye is you come back and you're always a Hawkeye. And, we look at people like Hayden Fry, Kirk Ferentz, you look at the athletic directors, you look at the SIDs, they don't leave. You get here and they like it. There is no other school in the country that's had 2 football coaches in the last 40 years. Everybody has had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The stability. There have been 4 SIDs in the history of the University of Iowa. There haven't been that many athletic directors. So when they get here, they see how the people are and they stay. And there's a reason for that. And there's the reason we have people here from all over the world that attended the University of Iowa. And we had a guy who was our gymnastics coach. I want to say a little about him. We used to call Tom Mr. Excitement when he was the coach, because when a guy did a 10 routine, the most we got out of him was one of those. But I want to tell you something. His coaching tree is as big as anybody in gymnastics history, as ones that went on to be a success in coaching and other fields, judging, any other areas connected with gymnastics. And he is one of the classiest and most professional and respected gymnastics coaches in NCAA history, Tom Dunn.
Thank you, Phil. And when I give my talk this evening, I'm going to talk about those people that really helped me out, my assistant coaches. It's probably my strength was hiring good people. I don't know if any are in the crowd right now, but I bumped into Kurt Golder in the lobby. He was an assistant coach for 5 years here, and then he got a call from his alma mater, the University of Michigan. And I almost had to kick him out the door because he wasn't sure if he wanted to leave, but he did go to the University of Michigan. He's been coaching there for 22 years, 4 NCAA championships. The first guy I hired was Mike Burns, who now it's 37 years later. He's still got all the energy he had back then. He's head coach at the University of Minnesota. He's the president of the Coach Association, chairman of the NCAA Gymnastics Committee. And then one I had for just a couple of years, there was a kid named Chao Liang, Chinese kid who wanted to come to Iowa City. And I communicated with him for maybe 3 years, trying to work it out. But he was on the Chinese national team and they wouldn't let him out. And when they were ready to get rid of him, his NCAA eligibility was gone. He was too old. So he came. He still wanted to come to Iowa City. So we brought him over as an assistant coach. And we didn't really have any money for him, though, and he was on kind of just a partial help thing. Got him into an English class. So a job opened up with the women's team, and he had a full-time position on the women's gymnastics team for a few years. Then he decided to open a club in West Des Moines. And the first day he opened it, I think Sean Johnson walked in, a 7-year-old. And it went from there. He was 9 years later the Olympic coach for the United States. in Beijing, his hometown. Sean Johnson won gold, a few silver medals. So I've had a lot of good help.
You have indeed, and a lot of that is because of what you taught them. Now, Chris, you gave a lot of credit in an interview you did to, of all people, you wouldn't suspect it, Dan Gable, because you said way back when he did a lot to help the field hockey team as far as their conditioning.
Well, when you make the national team in college, you have to work out the whole time. So you're not just working out in your season. And you can't just walk into the bubble or the weight room. There's got to be a coach there or a trainer there. So we were constantly looking for places to work out. Our trainer, Faye, let us work out in the training room on some of the machines just to get leg workouts. But Dan Gable, you wouldn't expect it of, the legend of all time in almost any sport, allowing a woman's team to come into the wrestling room during their practice, and he'd say, you know what? If you want to work out, I'm not going to ever stop an athlete from working out. And I can say that, it was a little smelly in there at times with all those guys and all the sweat going on, but we kind of stayed off on our own area, and it was pretty awesome. So whenever I struggled on the U.S. team or had any doubts about myself, I pulled out this VHS tape, one of the original stories of Dan Gable and his whole life. I still have it, and I would just pop that in, and it would just give me some motivation. So, yeah, I appreciate the history and everything that he's done as an athlete and coach, and it was pretty special.
It's good. Now, this is a time where, do any of you have anything that you haven't said you'd like to say? I want to remind everybody, as soon as they're done here in about 5 to 10 minutes, right next door to us here, a table, all of them, all 7 of them will be over there signing autographs, so stop over there, and they'd be glad to sign anything you want for them. I'd like to get back. Tony, are you watching the U.S. Open at all?
A little bit. I was busy writing my speech for the last couple of days.
They're hitting the heck out of the ball, the men and the women, and that's, like they said, that's a game that we're unfamiliar with, the people of our age right now, and I watch them hitting, and I don't even know how they can follow the ball.
Yeah, I think the game has really changed. It's a lot more physical than it used to be. It used to be more just skills, and now if you're not doing enough fitness, you just can't really make it there. So it's really evolved, and you just have to hit the weight room almost every day in order to be a successful tennis player.
Okay. The thing I'd like to ask Robert, there's been so much said now about the injuries in high school, college, NFL football, the concussion status of people, the suicide rate of people. What are your thoughts on there? Obviously now the players are bigger, faster, stronger, and what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a huge subject. It's something, as an athlete, when you're playing, all of us, you don't think of that. I never thought of that stuff. I mean, as you get older and things happen, you don't worry about what's going to happen in the future, because at that point, all you're worried about is your sport, right? You love the sport you're in, even in playing professionally. There were things, I stayed relatively healthy in college, but there were times in the pros where you did have a concussion, or you played on a broken leg, or, things that normal people would look at you like you're crazy. But that's how we are as athletes. But as you get older and being still relatively young, it's an honest concern now. I think the game has changed. Now the young kids are watching the professional guys, and the professionals and college guys are, the head hunting and hits to the head. Now you have kids in lower grades doing that. So that's why you're seeing, in my opinion, more concussions in these lower age, because they're seeing what the college and professional athletes are doing. They're trying to emulate that, but not necessarily doing it with the right technique. So I think it is a huge concern. But again, being an athlete, I would go back and do all the things I did. Looking back at it now, there was probably not some smart decisions health-wise as far as things I played through, like all of us. But that's who we are. That's what we're here to do. You got to dragged me off the field before I was coming off. That was my mentality. And right or wrong, I'm proud of that. I played with some, as we all did, played through some things, and you know, we all had people on our teams, which I'm sure we all can attest to, that one of my trainers in the NFL said it best. There's Ford and Chevy trucks, there's work trucks, and then there's Ferraris. You know, the guys like me were work trucks, right? Things are broken down and rusty, doors are falling off, but you're going to be out there working. And then the guys that, oh, my hamstring hurts, or oh, it just doesn't feel right. You know, those are the Ferraris. So that's, to me, that was the mentality that started at Iowa. It didn't matter what was going on. Unless you couldn't be out there, you would be out there. So I think it's education for the young kids. But at the end of the day, it's a sport we all love. I'd go back and do everything I did because of the love for what we did and the experiences I had. I see getting to thank other people. You know, you come back to Iowa City, there's so many people you want to see, and you don't have time to go thank everyone that you've ever dealt with. But you kind of, you know, get the people that you really want to see. And you know, it's funny, till I saw him here, a guy like John Streif. You know, that's a guy that took care of me from day one. And John took, I think, all these athletes up here. You know, people like that, that's what's important to me. You know, obviously my family's first and foremost always, but guys like that, you come back to Iowa City and you run into people. You know, John, we stay in contact constantly, but there's other people you run into you haven't seen since last year, right? And it's like you never left, or you saw them last week. So that's, to me, that's what Iowa is. That's what's coming back here. And all those people I'd like to thank, and it's just great to get back and to experience that again, and just be a part of what we all miss, right? As former athletes, you miss this. You do. You get to the game and you get the excitement, and you're like, I'm going to go crazy. I'm sitting in the stands, right? But we all did it for so long. That's your mentality. And it's great, but it's also to a point where that'll never go away. I'm sure we'll all be old and gray in our rocking chairs, still getting that same excitement, seeing Iowa football or basketball or gymnastics, all that stuff come on. So that's just part of the Iowa way and the people here, and we're obviously all honored to be in the Hall of Fame.
Just for the record, Bump Elliott, Iowa's great former athletic director, said he thinks the best way to not eliminate, but certainly curb head injuries in football is to take the face mask off. Take the face mask off, and he said there'll be a lot less head hunting.
It's very true. I mean, the game has evolved, right? There wasn't back then, because now you do that. And I was that guy, right? The best way to get a guy dazed off the line was to put that face mask on his face mask. So you got to be smart. There's obviously things we'll teach our kids that I learned, that I'll teach my kids as they grow up in sports, to be smarter, because it is a real issue. There's more studies on it now. It's like anything. But at the end of the day, you go out and do it because you like it. You don't go out and worry about getting a concussion or those things happening. But it's a real concern, and obviously with technology and all the medicine and stuff, it'll continue to be safer for everyone.
And you know, this is for any of you who wants to jump in, but it seems like nowadays, you know, people used to always play through injuries, and now if someone gets a little, what we think maybe is a little injury, an arm pull or this or that, they're out for 4 months, but they're being paid $1 million a week or whatever. It seems like injuries are taking a bigger toll nowadays. Anybody want to say anything on that? In any sport, I'm talking baseball, football, basketball, anything.
I'll just speak from my experience. Like I said, I think there's different types of people. You know, the Iowa way was to play through whatever you had. I would, you know, personally would not come out unless something was absolutely wrong to where I couldn't come out. And was that smart? Maybe not, but that's my mentality. That's the mentality I was brought up with. You start something, you finish it. But there's also two sides of it. There are things that, you know, some of these athletes are dealing with, to where a fan, oh, they're not playing well, or even you know, you look at, oh, what's wrong with that guy? He doesn't look good this week. You don't know what maybe they are pushing through. So I think to me, it's a fine line of, you know, you got to take care of yourself. But it's also, if you're a guy that thinks like me, and I'm sure a lot of these other athletes, those nicks and bruises, that's part of the game, right? You played with broken hands and, you know, cracked bone in your leg. There's things that we did that you tell that to people and they're like, look at you like you're crazy, but I'd do it again in a second. So
Any other thought? Andre, go ahead.
I mean, I totally agree. It's the person. It's a simple statement, but players play, period. If you love this game, nothing's going to stop you from being out there. Little injuries, if you don't need surgery, you need to be out there playing, period. And you're going to go further when it's the playoffs. You're going to play on something faster if it's the playoffs or if it's a big game. Now, if it's the second game of the season, you might rest that injury. But for the most part, you love your sport, nothing's going to keep you from playing that sport, period. Coach TD, Tom Davis, would give us days off, and I would go straight to the field house and play basketball.
And he wouldn't like it.
No, he wouldn't like it, but I'm not going to twist my ankle, Coach. I'll be all right. But it's my life. It's what I did. I played basketball every single day, period. So you got those guys who are going to cheat the game, and you got those guys who are going to give 100%, 110% to the game.
And that's why all of these people are Hall of Famers, because they gave to their sport every day, and now they're reaping the accolades of it. One more time, I want to say to them, Tom Dunn, Barb Willis, Andre Woolridge, Robert Gallery, Tony Nicola, Marty Kistler, and Chris Phillip, Hall of Famers, we're happy for you. We're honoring you. And stand up one more time, and let's hear it for this year's 2017 Hall of Fame class at the University of Iowa. It's a great one. They're going to be signing autographs right next door, and you're going to hear a lengthy speech from all of them tonight if you go to the reception right here at the Marriott. So our Hall of Fame class, thank you all, and move over to the autograph table.